Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Verity Seeker, and I'm your host, Mark Powls. And I have a guest today that is going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to her heart. And hope we can get through this without too much stress. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to the truth and see if we can fix problems rather than continuing on the way we usually do. So. My guest today is Jenn Cook.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Jenn. Actually, we have never met in person.
Nope.
I don't know what happened. We were doing our thing on social media, and somehow we got connected and ended up friending each other.
Yeah.
And
I can't remember how that all went down.
It's weird how that happens. But I think what happens is like-minded people find each other.
Yes.
And obviously,
it's kind of a God thing. I think it all happened for a reason.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jenn.
That's called life happens. Actually, that's just part of my life. I mean, that's just, makes me feel more comfortable when that kind of stuff happens, because I'm like, it only happens to me. Why is this happening?
No.
Or the dogs come barreling in through the dog gate, and I have a newborn that's 5 days old, and I'm like, 4-month-old puppy, I'm so sorry, guys, hold on. She actually breaks through the gate.
Oh, no. Oh, well, yeah, anyway. That phone system we just put in here a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not used to having that thing back there. But it's so Carmen has an intercom, and she gets tired of me being in here because I'm working all the time.
It's time for lunch, honey.
Exactly. She doesn't want to go outside and get me, so she presses that button, and it has a special ring, and it works.
I was like opening up the window last night. I was like, Kevin, dinner's ready. I mean, he was like working on the shed because he just got gravel in there, and he's very excited because that's where he does all of his woodwork. And I was like, Kevin!
Yeah, you're going to have
a walkie-talkie.
Get the walkie-talkie, and you can use the walkie-talkie when the world falls apart, and you can communicate. Those. Oh, we better not get into that. That's going to be rough stuff. Okay, well, the reason why we're here today is because, Jenn, you had an issue with a family member who passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, my youngest sister, Kristi. So we're about 9 years apart. Baby sister, very ornery sister, very quiet sister, but very ornery too. Very much likes to hide under the bed and just grab your ankles, or hide in the closet. Dad had Dad's very big into the Halloween, and he had like this butler from like Addams Family, and he was like holding a tray out. He's very creepy, very dark eyes, and she would dress that sucker up and have it in closets, and you open up and this thing's 7 foot tall.
Oh my
goodness. Freak you out.
So Kristi
she was very ornery. Yes. And we definitely missed that.
Kind of kept things alive around the house.
And kept things to where, you feel old some days, you're like, okay, this is kind of fun too. Who else can we like go and scare the crap out of?
Oh man. Now, before we get into more about Kristi, let's back up and let's find out about you and your family.
Okay.
Because there's going to be folks out there that have never met you.
So Jenn. I'm a photographer. So I have 4 kids, 5 dogs, and a cat. That's not my husband's idea. This is actually a form of therapy I found through losing my sister, that animal therapy really reaches my soul. So I found that connection and that grounding, and that's why I have so many lap dogs. And unfortunately, 2 of them are actually still in that chewing phase, potty training phase. One's 4 months old, golden retriever that goes to my husband's chiropractic office, and then the other one is she just turned a year old on my birthday, which is kind of funny. I got her as a therapy dog, Holly. She's my little King Charles Cavalier Spaniel. My mom races those. Yeah. So I need to stop going over there when she has a litter of puppies, so I end up coming home with a dog. So anyway, Holly was born on my birthday, and we didn't know that at the time. Mom had looked up her papers, and she's like, well, you know what's something cool, Jenn? She's born on your birthday. And she's like, it was just meant to be. Yeah. But yeah, I have a crazy life. But I just wouldn't have it any other way, because I feel like if I'm at the grocery store by myself, it just feels eerie. Like I'm not getting onto a kid. Get off the cart. I can't, I'm always getting onto somebody, and like my life is crazy, but I love it that way. So
Yeah.
We have a crazy life.
Now, are you okay mentioning your
That's fine.
the name of your company, your photography company?
So it's Jenn's Portrait Photography, and I specialize in newborns because,
Okay.
ever since Kristi passed away, I felt like, finding kind of more of my niche and not so trying to spread myself with everything with seniors and families. And I do families once in a while and seniors every once in a while. And I really like weddings because you go and you feel happy at weddings. People are getting to where they're expressing their love for each other and, under God's house, and just, you feel that connection again, and kind of reminds you of that day you like married your high school sweetheart. And I like going to weddings. I was going to quit them for a while, but I decided, I really, really kind of like these, but I specialize in newborns. Nobody holds a newborn and feels sad.
Yes.
If you look at these little faces God made, and life's so precious. I mean, like, you look at these little faces, and if they cry, give them to mom.
Yeah.
And then you can stuff them in a little box or in a bucket and have like the most little precious little photos. So that's why I specialize in newborns.
And that's a good area to touch on.
Yeah.
So now, what is the name of your husband's Kevin?
Yes.
And what's the name of his chiropractic business?
Cook Chiropractic. So he's got one in Oswami and then one in Paola.
What else does he like to do?
So he's got a band on the side.
Oh, he's got a band?
So yeah, you roll up to my house and you see this big old band trailer with a skull with drumsticks coming out of his eyes, and they're a country music band, and
really,
they're usually, their last set is like more like old time rock and roll, like and then they'll get some more of like Pour Some Sugar on Me kind of stuff, like where, oh boy, usually the last set, your people out in the crowd are a little more tipsy and kind of fun to watch. So
they still do that?
They still do that.
I figured after 2020 and all that stuff,
no, we
more
still
subdued.
do all that stuff. Yeah, we actually have one this Saturday.
Probably more so now than before 2020.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's fun. It keeps things real.
So you're a photographer, and he's a musician and
Yes,
a chiropractor. He bends people.
He cracks people for a living, and I shoot people for a living.
Okay, strike that. Now, do you sing?
I mean, in church, no, he does. He does that with his brothers, and then he's got two new musicians in their band, and they're very, very good additions. So,
really?
Yeah, they changed a lot.
What's the name of his band?
Silver Bullets.
Silver Bullet. Okay, that name sounds very fitting.
Yeah. Yep.
Check them out, Silver Bullet. And if you need your back worked on, or your kneecap or whatever, I'm sure that would be the place to go too.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to kind of hear about what you guys do for a living, and people need to know about your business as well. I mean, I didn't know you were a photographer, and I got on your Facebook page, and wow, look at these photographs. And then I realized, wait a minute, she's a photographer.
Yeah.
No wonder they're so good.
It's every day. I got people every day. And then this time of year, it's a little bit more crazy because everybody wants the fall family pictures. Right. So because it's not as hot. Right now it's hot because it's Kansas, but it's usually a little bit more cooler. So you don't have the dads, belly aching because sweat's rolling down into the unmentionable places. Because the dads are not usually into photos. It's moms that plans it all. And like it's the day or, the morning of the session, like you guys, you got to threaten the kids, suck it up. You must put on your smiles. I have to do that for my family, so I know.
Oh, it really sounds like you have a normal family. I'm so happy to be sitting down talking with you about this because I don't feel so abnormal.
No, we're kind of crazy, so I feel like that's our craziness.
Oh man, that's great. Okay, well, I'm sorry, Jenn, but we've got to get into this other subject. Yeah. Okay. When did Kristi pass away?
Okay, so it was April 19th of 2019, and I actually talked to her the day of. And being a family member of someone so close to you, it's pretty hard. Already.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah. So, but I can get through it.
Let me back up a little bit for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Before. You said 2019, April of 2019. Before that happened, can you kind of back up and tell us what was going on before that?
Yeah, but so a little bit about Kristi. She was a quiet girl. She was very ornery. A book reader, had a teacup Yorkie, had a Harlequin Great Dane. So she had the smallest of the small dogs to the largest of the largest of the large dogs. And she found that, that animal, having the animals nonstop around, especially the lazy Great Danes, all they want to do is just lay around. Even Harley, being not very old, she just wanted to, sleep all day, slug bug. But that helped her a lot. So
where was she living?
So she was actually living in Lawrence, and then she had moved in with my sister when things got really tough.
And that's
towards the
Stephanie?
Stephanie.
Okay.
She's the second born.
Okay.
Usually the second born is supposed to be the honoriest one. My family, yes. My husband, who's second born, yes. Not Stephanie. She was a Victorian and very quiet and very easy child.
Okay.
Kristi was the honorary child. A little bit more rebellious. But she was a fun one to where you can kind of call her up, anytime she'd want to talk. She was a very happy girl. She did have a very bad streak of luck all at once. She had dated a guy from this area, and I think Bree was only 4 to 7 years old when they dated. I'm might be a little wrong on the dates, but she was in that really precious age, that fun age, very theatrical, very wants to do everything by your side age, and so she had her for every day. And she helped raise her. Kristi helped raise her every day.
Oh, now Bree, you mentioned
this is Bree. Yes. So this is the daughter of the boyfriend that she was with for quite a while. Well, fast forward, they did break up. So fast forward, but Kristi absolutely loved Bree. I mean, that's just having, kind of a live-in daughter for a while. Bree was involved in a car wreck on 68 highway, that lovely highway. So Bree passed away. Her 3-year-old brother passed away.
Yeah, just take a moment. It's okay.
The 12-year-old little cousin was with her. She passed away. And then the 6-year-old little sibling, she lived. The mother was in critical. She lived. The 6-year-old girl was in very critical condition. She lived though. So it was. We went to that funeral. She went to the Wellsville district. So here comes the Wellsville school buses. Filled with faculty.
Right.
Yeah. I've been to one funeral, but there was 3 kids' caskets, and they were beautiful kids.
Okay.
And that was really hard. Got the Paw Patrol backpacks and the wreaths, and just everything felt so wrong, being little kids' funerals. But Kristi really struggled after that. Thank you.
Yeah,
so we go to the funeral, and that was obviously a very hard funeral to go to with just 3 little kids.
Right.
Just doesn't feel right in the world. But Kristi really struggled with that, and she would call me at 2:00 in the morning. Hey, what you doing? I'm like, I'm sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
But I knew that she was really going through a hard time. So you're going to answer that phone call, and you're going to listen to, her struggles. And about a month after Bree passed away, her friend, I don't want to mention her name, but she passed away too from suicide. Oh. So she was dealing with that. She had just seen that friend a week before. They were at watching a football game together, and so she had that. And then she decided to go to the doctor and see if there was anything they could do with her depression. So, of course, they put her on Wellbutrin. And so she was on that for a while, and that wasn't helping. And so I do have a thing with the medication. So I do want to mention that. So if you're on medication and it's working for you after having depression, awesome. Right. Awesome. Stay on it. But for my case, I saw my sister going through seizures. She's never had a history of seizures before.
And that was
she was taken to the ER. Yes, that's from the Wellbutrin. And so her boyfriend had taken her to the hospital multiple times for having seizures. And then the doctor was like, hey, let's try something different. So they on her medications, they either upped her dose or they changed her prescription altogether to something completely different. And so she had started this other new medication. We had showed up to mom's, and me and my sister were like, oh boy, she's doing a whole control, like a whole body, like shaking thing. Mm-hmm. And mom was like, is there something that she's on that, she's never been on drugs. What's going on with Kristi? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, she told me she's starting a new medication that the doctor said this is normal. But I'm like, everything about this does not feel normal. She's like, well, the medication has to get into my system and the whole body shakes is part of it. So I was like, oh boy, I just wished, would have, could have, should have, mm-hmm. after the fact, tapering off of that, because you can't quit anything antidepressant related cold turkey, because I guess your increase of suicidal ideations goes up tenfold, at least. So that was scary. Couldn't do that. But she was on anti-anxiety medicine too. So she was having panic attacks. She's never had that before. And so this was a new thing. So I'm not sure if it was a side effect from the Wellbutrin. So she was put on calming medications. So she was put on calming medications, and then she was also putting on medications that her doctor said, since you have depression, it's supposed to increase your mood. So we have calming stuff and we have stuff that's increasing your mood. And all of a sudden, she's now diagnosed with bipolar, because all these chemicals in your brain are saying, one's saying, hey, calm down. And the other one's saying, hey, we got to be happy. Let's get some pep in her step. And so she now had bipolar. And so all these medications, I just wish, we would have tried ashwagandha. There's, licorice root. I wish like her doctor would have said, let's try some animal therapy or music therapy or like something more natural. And oh boy.
Well, the fact that all of her experiences that happened in that time frame would depress anyone.
Yes.
It would cause anyone to lose hope.
Yes, and most people will go through something so traumatic in their life that they will mm-hmm. unfortunately experience depression. And I've never personally experienced depression. I felt sad at times, but after Kristi passed away, being so close, that's your best friend. So right. Then I felt, that whole, what she was feeling, what right. she was going through, and that the heaviness,
right,
and the emptiness, the hopelessness, and
it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming, and I have 4 kids and a very, very sweet husband, and we've been together 23 years. I have nothing to be depressed about.
Right.
But I was. But I know that there's so much life to worth living, and I know that I have a very connection with God. I'm glad that I have found that foundation. I have hope. I just feel like, all the kids that have been passing away lately so young, especially with all these teenagers. And I personally know in the last 3 weeks, 4 teenagers. The youngest was a 15-year-old girl. There was a 16-year-old boy, 17-year-old boy, and then the other one was 19, and that one was the most recent one. And he was a freshman in college. Kind of one of those, like, for family, the what ifs. What if I went over to hold their hand? What if I said something different? I talked to Kristi the day that she had passed away, and I was editing. I was working on photos. Mm-hmm. And I was getting ready to go pick my kids up from school, and I was listening to her struggles. But I was also like not talking as much. I was distracted because I was working on my photos. I love those deadlines, but I definitely couldn't touch a computer for a good month and a half afterwards. But yeah, so just want to let anybody know that if they have, they're going to know somebody out there experiencing it either right now or if it's them personally, that, whatever you're going through, just know that it's only temporary. Just put your situation, if it's a divorce, like I am feeling hopeless right now. Always put that perspective in the moment right behind your saying, because that gives it more of a not so permanent feeling. Mm-hmm. And I feel like these people that are going through it, they feel like it's permanent and that it's never going to end. And we need to go and give them hope and not just send them a text saying, hey, if you need anything, let me know, which that's nice to hear, but go over to their house, take them out to dinner, get them out of their house. They're just going to want to sleep all day. They're going to just not want to take showers. They're going to not want to do anything because they don't have hope. And I think it's our job to give them hope and get them out for a walk, or find something that they're interested in, woodworking or painting. My thing is painting. I had to paint whenever I felt sad and I felt like I kind of was in my element. I was happy. Animal therapy worked for me, whatever works for that person. Music therapy, I was listening to Caleb a lot more. That helps me big time. But whatever that person is, and because we're all different, like really stress to them, find yourself again. Go take that vacation, or let's go take that walk. But to put some hope into their future, because they are just living in the moment.
Right. And
just feeling so hopeless. But we've all been there,
Yeah. I growing up, I can remember, as a child, contemplating ending my life. I'm sure there's people out there that have just flew through life and never had experiences in their life where they actually thought that, well, what if I just died? We had a young man going to school here in the USD 365 school district that committed suicide just recently. And basically, when a person believes that they are replaceable, then there's a problem. And that is just not so.
Well, I'd say on average, it just takes about that 10 minutes of that thought to get into your head and actually put that action, it in and do it. Yeah. And that's scary, because you can be fine 1 minute and then you can just really something trigger you, or something happen to where it's very traumatic and they don't think there's any other option. That's scary. I mean, especially with the youth today and being on the social media and all the likes, I'm not getting many likes on my Instagram, or they think that's a direct reflection of themselves. And so we need to limit, I've 4 kids, limit them with their exposure of technology. That's really crazy how much that has an effect on their daily life, because they check that sucker all the time.
Right. Yeah. And everybody wants approval.
And they want to be listened to. Yeah. I mean, they want to have someone to talk to, be that person for them to talk to. Even if it's 2:00 in the morning. So
yes, yeah, you did your best. And I do any of your family members ever, do you try to blame yourself?
I think every one of us has had that, because we've talked about like how it's affected our lives now, to where our lives have changed so much and what we could have done. And I know it's changed my family, especially my mom and dad. You're not supposed to outlive your kid.
Right.
Yeah.
But it does happen, and none of us know when we're going to go.
No.
But there is something different about a person ending their own life.
Yeah.
That should not happen.
Now, with my sister's case, though, we did try to find her institutions.
Can you talk about that? Because that's
where
critical.
Kristi's bill comes in.
Yes.
Okay, so we had reached out to legislators, and we reached out to local representatives and sent emails, phone calls. And it was one of those, kind of had a mission. I got to change something,
Can I interrupt you just briefly?
Yeah.
There might be people out there that don't understand why you were trying to get a bill passed. So you've been through this already.
Yeah.
And so I'm coming from a point of view of not knowing all this. So what happened to Kristi? Okay, she's still with us.
Okay, so
what happened?
The night that this happened, and we found this out through a private investigator, because I actually, being the big sister I am, I contacted who she contacted that night.
Wow,
and reached out and had some words for him. So we didn't know this kid. So she had met him at Brooks Nash in Lawrence at a facility, I think a counseling service. I'm not sure exactly what that Brooks Nash was. Kristi was limited for her insurance, and she was covered, by the way. She had Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and she paid a nice premium every month, and she was 28 years old. So she was a very responsible person, paying this, bill every month, and, doing, making the whole, like, adulting. She was adulting.
Yeah.
And I was very proud of her. She's my baby sister, and she's, making her way in the world. She had a job, and she was a massage therapist at the time, but she knew she needed help. So she reached out to Brooks and Nash, and her insurance at the time, I think it was only like 5 or 6 sessions that they limit her to right off the get-go, which I think that should change. I think it should be however much you need it. So they can't just say, hey, if you're a diabetic, you're going to have 4 pills and you should be done.
Wow.
So for Kristi, I think she needed a lot more sessions, but like towards the end, I was like, hey, how are they going? And she's like, they're going really good. She's like, but I only have like a couple left. And so she had met this guy there. She had felt like she had to reach out to somebody. I wish she would have reached out to us, would have, could have, should have. She called him, and she found out that she's like, hey, can you Google what the lethal dose of Wellbutrin is? And he was like, okay. And Google said 17. And so she had taken 15, but didn't take into the count she's only like 110 pounds, and she's also 5'2". So who knows like what was going through her head that of course she didn't think this through, but she had done that because we had gone to institutions and found out that she wasn't critical enough. She didn't come in with a suicide plan at the time. Of course, she might have been suicidal like, a couple days before, but that doesn't matter. You have to come in currently wanting to kill yourself to get into an admitted.
Or have attempted to kill yourself.
Well, with her bill, we had found out with all the testimonies, we had some wonderful testimonies, and some for emergency room directors. We had some clinicians, we had preachers, we had firefighters, we've had police officers, we had other family members going through this too. One of the big ones was up there at Shawnee Mission. She had said that she had patients in her parking lot trying to get down cold medicine, and just guzzle that, because that would mean that they were currently suicidal, and that would mean that they were actively a case, and they could be admitted right there because they had that in their system. And she said that that person had actually tried to hang themselves 3 hours before, and because it happened 3 hours before, they weren't actively suicidal. So they went out back to the parking lot and guzzled the medication, and then their insurance, was saying, hey, this person's actively suicidal. That is absurd. I had no idea that this was even an ordeal. We ran into cases where they didn't have enough beds, so they were too full. We went to all of our local ones. This is the same case. We weren't suicidal enough. I felt like, that's not a proper term, but Kristi felt like she wasn't like critical enough. Stephanie found one down in Texas that did not have that as their front runner. Like, you reached out, they were actually going to come to the airport, because we don't have family down there, and pick her up and bring her to that institution. And so she had moved in with my sister. We called Blue Cross. They pre-approved it. But because it was out of state, they called the next day after we had bought the plane ticket and said, hey, you haven't bought that plane ticket yet, have you? And we said, yes, we're getting her down as soon as we can. because she is bad. And they said, so not the institution, but our insurance, her and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City denied it because it was out of state. And so that's where her bill comes in, to where if you cannot find an institution that will take you in, it is up to your insurance. They will find one for you in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. It'll be required. And you have the 14-day inpatient stay versus right now they have 72 hours and then they boot you out.
Okay.
So
let me recap for the person out there who doesn't know all the details. I'm going to just summarize what you just said. Mm-hmm. Okay. So Kristi she's depressed. Mm-hmm. Okay. She can't get rid of the depression. She's trying to get admitted to an institution to get help. She pays her insurance premium. This is Blue Cross Blue Shield. She's expecting coverage for her mental illness. You know, this is a state of mental illness when you've fallen deep into this depression. A lot of times triggered by an event. Well, she had several events that leads to this, and it's hard to pick yourself up by the bootstraps sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need help, especially under traumatic experiences like that. Military people go through that too. This is not much different, especially, with the death she was exposed to. Okay, so she's trying to find an institution in the state of Kansas that will take her in now when she really needs it, but her insurance company will not cover it in the state of Kansas. Mm-hmm. So she goes out of state, finds a place in Texas. Mm-hmm. They're going to take her in right now. So they get a plane ticket, okay, and they're about ready to fly into Texas to get some help before it's too late. Okay, she's making an attempt to get help. All right, then she gets a call. She was approved at first, but probably they were thinking that it was intrastate, where they would cover it, mm-hmm. but they find out that it's in Texas. Mm-hmm. And so they call and they go, well, we're sorry, we won't cover out-of-state services. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're at that point. And she's in this hotel room. She's got her plane tickets. She's packed up, ready to go. Okay, now what happens? Okay,
so we go to the legislation, and they wrote up this bill. So I kind of put in a nutshell what the bill had said. The act would require that if a physician, psychologist, or psychiatrist determines that a patient needs inpatient treatment for substance abuse, suicidal ideation, or actively suicidal, the patient will get inpatient treatment without proper imposition of prior authorization, concurrent review, retrospective review, or any other form of utilization management review for the first 14 days of treatment. In other words, the mental health provider with the patient is the determiner of need and not the insurance company. The same applies for the first 180 days of outpatient treatment if that is what the physician, psychologist, or psychiatrist determines that a patient needs. The clinics and service providers are required to let the insurance company know when a patient has started the treatment within 48 hours. Medical necessity is determined by the service provider and not the insurance company. In other words, medical people are the people who decide what is necessary. Further, the bill requires that if no provider available in network, then the insurance company must provide necessary exceptions to its network to ensure admission in treatment facility within 24 hours. In other words, a patient cannot be denied access to an out-of-network provider paid for by the insurance company if there was no in-network provider available, like what happened with my sister. So it also allows the service provider an inpatient facility or outpatient counselor psychologist to demand upfront payment before treatment can begin. So in a nutshell, if the medical professional determines that the patient needs help, the patient gets help without to jump through all the additional insurance company hoops that help can be for an inpatient or outpatient, depending on medical professionals' diagnosis and recommendation. So we're not having the barriers. And we didn't know we were going to have all the barriers when we first started calling everybody. Right. And so this is something that we weren't prepared for. If we knew, in hindsight, everything would happen, I would have taken her to the ER and had a plan for her to tell them that she was currently suicidal. And then they would actually find her and in treatment. So if we would have gone that route, I think this would have ended a lot differently. But she also had $6,000 in ER bills. Mm. So she was trying to avert having more bills. And she's like, well, I have coverage. I have Blue Cross. So let's try, inpatient. And so I can stay there the full 30 days. Boy, that's expensive. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how much this would be. I mean,
and getting worse.
Getting worse. So
yeah, it's catastrophic. Number one, the insurance companies, if I may inject this, the insurance companies are worried about their bottom line. They're not really concerned about individuals or providing a service. Now, I'm being really critical here, but and it's gotten worse. Since we got the unconstitutional Affordable Care Act. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into that, but insurance premiums have skyrocketed. You can't get, the coverage that you had before. You basically are purchasing catastrophic insurance these days. Mm-hmm. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to push to put that authority, that decision-making in the medical profession, the care provider. They need to be the ones that makes that decision on behalf of the patient. And then the insurance companies need to follow suit. Mm-hmm. That's been an issue for a long time. We
went to the committee hearings, and just being there in the room with all these lobbyists. There are lots of them.
And attorneys.
Lots of attorneys. Blue Cross was ready, but they didn't have a solution to all this. They just kept saying this is going to increase, all of their bottom dollar premiums. They're going to pay so much more a month because that's very expensive getting this, what you guys are saying and putting this in the bill, that the bottom dollar, it's going to increase everybody's monthly premium, and they're not going to want that.
Right. How in the world does an insurance company have the resources, the financial assets to hire all of the expensive attorneys and lobbyists that pressure legislators into protecting their bottom dollar?
I don't have an answer for that. I know that when we went into this, we're all kind of going blindsided and not knowing what to deal with. But when I had reached out to my own local representative, he was very hesitant on taking her bill. Didn't want to take her bill into his committee because he was also leader of the insurance committee. So there you go. There, a little bit of conflict of interest, which I think that's also why he didn't finish out his term, and he was in there 30 years and he retired very early.
30 years.
And I think there's a little reason behind that. So I was actually going to run against him.
Good for you.
So I'm not one of those, I like to speak out in public, but this is something that was very near and dear to my heart, and I was very passionate about it. I felt like nobody was going to take her bill. I don't know, God willing. Her boyfriend at the time, his dad works at the Capitol. So it's one of those kind of God things. Nobody was answering my emails. I called Mark, his dad, and told him what happened, and he was very upset. He loved Kristi.
Yeah.
And he's like, if there's anything I can do, let me know. And I said, you know what? There is something you can do, and nobody is listening to us.
Right.
And so he got our foot in the door, and he told us to contact. And I do think it's a God thing, because he was telling us, this person's really good. Don't go to that person because they have their hands deep in lobbyists.
Yeah.
So we head first into it, and our representative went ahead and took on her hearing. It did not get out of hearing, the committee hearing. Perfect timing. So I guess a bill can expire. Right. I didn't know all this stuff, but Chiefs had just won the Super Bowl. And they took a week off. We came back to finish the hearing, and it's now almost to the date to where it's expiring. And he had said, the representative, my local representative, which is also the leader of the insurance committee, he said, well, we're going to put this together with the task force for the summer. And that's how it ended. And then that never happened because COVID, because nobody was allowed to go to the Capitol with COVID.
Well, see, COVID was a catalyst for a lot of things. And that was just one of the casualties of many.
Yep. And now, because of COVID, you're seeing this huge uptick in suicides, huge uptick. And now even got like elderly people that they can't even go and like converse with their that's what they look forward to, is like having social interaction, and they can't because they're scared to hug somebody, or they're going to get, that virus.
Right.
So it's affected a lot of people. I had even people like that are higher up in my community, firefighter. There was a police officer kind of right at that time where Kristi had passed away. It was like during that month. And being a family member, your ears kind of go out. You definitely hear everything and you take it all in. There was a 7th grade boy not too long after Kristi that had committed suicide, and I had a 6th grader at the time, and I was like, oh boy, this is an issue. Yeah. And so we weren't going to let this die. But COVID kind of threw in a little bit of a hamper there where we couldn't meet. And so the task force never was formed.
Right.
We never had met. And then Samantha Poetter took his place, and she seems to be very good.
She is, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, she seems to be very good about this mental health. So, yeah. That's where we are with that.
Maybe something
hopefully something comes out of it. Yeah. We know that she's on our side. And what I'd like to see is less government and the whole healthcare, as in like the facilities. I would like to see more natural remedies. If that patient wanted to have that medication, then have someone like that can prescribe that. But if they didn't want that and they wanted to go the natural route, then have like an herbalist and have like, those people that are very specialized in the more natural remedies. And let's try ashwagandha, or let's try this. Like, start them off that way versus right at the get-go. And that's the standard protocol. As soon as they get admitted, they either change their dose or they change their prescription altogether. And you know what? That takes 3 weeks to get into your system. And so, these people are sometimes released before their month. And one of the clinicians that had given us our testimony, she said, that's a problem. She's like, we're releasing these people too early into society, and we're seeing this revolving door.
Yeah.
It's more expensive for the insurance companies. And she's like, we're just creating this nonstop client. There's patient that's needing more and more treatments because they're not getting the whole treatment the first go around.
When Kristi was trying to get help, she had to meet that criteria, so she ended up taking those pills close to that dose that would get her into the door.
And I listened to that phone call, and he said, you'll be fine. Just take it lots of water. You should be fine.
And what happens is she was injured by that, and she basically didn't want to die. No. She was very excited about trying to get applications for. She was a massage therapist before, but she was like, "I'm gonna try something new. I just want to try something new, get myself rebooted." Okay.
So she was excited.
I want to put closure on this part of the conversation before we get into more positive things, because there is hope. Did she have any form of substance abuse that was part of the depression? Did she,
Yes.
during her depression,
Yes.
so she had that going on too?
Yes. So you're not supposed to have that combination with
Right.
alcohol. So she did have that as her crutch.
Okay.
And most likely people, when they get really bad, they do feel like they have to have that crutch to get them through that moment.
They kind of want to
And
escape
so they
from reality.
need that escape. It kind of just numbs everything for them. And so Kristi found, that there was a liquor store not too far down there, and she did combine it with, that. So that, yeah.
And that's also combined with the depression. If you're getting into alcoholism, the substance abuse, that's affecting your system. You're going to get the shakes if you ever try to pull out of that. Once you go down that road, you have to go to rehab. Okay, we're now beyond that. Things didn't go well, and we had a casualty. You lost your little sister. So now you want to focus on the remedy. You want to focus on saving other people, especially after 2020, 2021. And it appears that things are still happening. Government is still infringing on everyone. One size fits all. We want everybody in a mask. We want our children in masks. We want PE teachers forcing kids to run and do push-ups with masks on.
Outside in a track.
Wearing the masks is dangerous. It's a health issue. So I do not believe for 1 minute it's for your health. I believe there's another agenda, and I think the agenda is to create situations where people do kill themselves. The goal is to keep people apart. The goal is to cause people to lose hope. They're trying to keep businesses from taking risks, so our economy is going to tank. You talked earlier about food disappearing on the shelves because we have ships on the east and west coast that are just sitting there.
They're just sitting there at the harbor. Yep.
We know one day of that is bad, but it's been weeks. Okay, so basically, Kristi was a casualty of a problem that's been around a long time. And it was unnecessary that she lost her life. And then, as you mentioned, there are more.
We had a lot of support on her bill, a lot of support, which there was no reason for it not to pass. But we also found out very quickly, not just Washington has the deep pockets with the lobbyists. I had no idea that this was going to turn out like this.
Oh.
So
insurance is a huge problem in the state of Kansas.
There's a lot of money to throw around.
A lot of money, a lot of protection, and if insurance companies would serve the public instead of serving the pockets of their attorneys and their lobbyists to try to make more money, that's what it is. They're protecting their cash cow. They're basically enslaving the public to their company. You're going to pay us and keep paying us, and we'll give you, we'll let you eat cake when we decide. Okay, so it died on somebody's desk when COVID came along. Yep. So COVID has destroyed that. And I currently don't see any end to that for a while until people really revolt against it. All the mandates and masks and stuff that's still going on in our public schools. Insurance companies failed Kristi. The government failed your family. And they've failed every other family.
Yeah, she slipped through the cracks, definitely.
Is government the answer?
No, less government is the better option.
What is your dream situation for mental health?
I have my teaching degree. I always kind of believed, well, maybe that's because, COVID and I can homeschool my kids and I run a full-time business, very busy, but I would quit all of that in a heartbeat just to open up a facility that's more out in the open, out in the country, some land. We need some land that has more a natural base. No government. It's all natural based. They can kayak. They can find themselves. They can work the farm. They can do gardening. They could have classes for painting or, woodworking, whatever they're into, or music therapy. Drum therapy is actually a thing. Equestrian, horse therapy is actually a thing. My mom has a million animals. She would love to be a part of that. I have a very big background in art. My whole transcript on the right side is all art classes. I just think that we could all come together and get more of a natural approach. People don't have to get on the medications. They don't have to be separated from their family in order to try to get better. They can have natural remedy, getting outside, kayaking, just getting in the elements and having maybe a religion base to it, because religion does give you hope.
You're talking Christianity?
Yes. Kind of like a Camp Tekawatha. My daughter went there when she was younger in middle school a couple times. And I was like, what if we had some kind of facility that was based outside, had a very large pond, lots of stuff for them to do, zip lining, kayaking, like the horseback riding. The people could work on the facility, and your family could actually come visit, and you don't have to have that isolation. I just feel like this would be a good place to start with. We don't have anything like this in Kansas. That is, there's no government to overlook you and telling you what to do and what not to do. I feel like this could be successful. I kind of know some people like in the Lewisburg area that had the same idea. After I talked with another lady in the Spring Hill area, I think people would get on board with this. Less government is the answer here. And I feel like a natural approach is not a bad way to go. Holistic approaches are not a bad way to go. And if they wanted to do the medication, or if they wanted to do more of the counseling and be more isolated, they can have that option. I wanted something to have more of the everything there. But I don't want them isolated. I feel like they isolate them. They do the journaling. Kristi had told me exactly what they did when she was admitted. And so she did the journaling. She's like, I couldn't talk to anybody for 30 days. You go to your room. You're alone in your room. You have a nurse, a clinician that you can talk to, but like you don't have the therapy classes to where you can go outside and play with the animals. You can go learn to garden. You can learn life skills when you go outside. Like, hey, if I come into depression again, I'm going to go try this because it helped me. I can go, find this hobby. I've actually learned how to, blank, 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 whatever the case may be, like glass making, or I don't know. They can find that outlet, and finding that there's other ways instead of just sleeping all the time and try to drink, and just try to outlive whatever you're going through. I feel like this is more of a healthier approach versus what we have right now instated.
You can fix that through holistic, naturopathic medicine. The problem with the medical profession is they don't, they've got their area protected. It's difficult for naturopathic or holistic medicine, people that want to do that as a profession, to be licensed in some states. Not like being an MD or a physician. They're going to prescribe chemicals. They're going to treat the symptom, and in Kristi's case, made it worse. I guarantee it was
definitely worse. And people being on it, I know a lot of people that have been on it for 15 years plus. Yeah. It's not designed to be long term. It's supposed to get you out and then be done with it. But people will find that they're having to increase their dosages because it's not working, or they might feel happy for a little while. Like, it changes your serotonin in your brain, it changes your function in your brain, your wiring, it changes you, and you're actually getting worse over time. And so I feel like with what we experienced with Kristi, now this doesn't apply to everybody, because if it works for you, it works for you. she didn't like the way she felt when she was getting off the medication. A lot of people have that crazy feeling, and so they feel like they need to get on something else. Right. And so I do know someone very close to Kristi that actually weaned off of all of her medication in 6 months. She did it very slow, very gradual. It wasn't an overnight thing because that's dangerous. She took her life back into her own hands, and she has control over her life, and there's no medications involved.
Great. Good for her.
So that's my answer.
Yeah,
holistic.
I commend her for that because that's difficult.
Oh, yeah.
The drugs that they administer to patients with mental health issues is just as bad as an alcoholism. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to wean yourself off of that.
She's a fighter.
Did a good job. Yeah.
She did.
That's discipline.
Well, really. She had 3 girls too just to try to get her life back. So she had that as a motivator. As like a motivation.
Everything that I envisioned that you talked about seems like the answer. I mean, it seems like a remedy. You've got health. You're going to eat good food. You're going to use holistic
meditation, yoga, introducing all that stuff.
Exercise.
Amazing.
You're getting outdoors, the animal therapy, physical activity.
Mom's got that covered, the animal therapy.
Exactly. I mean, you got a bunch of this
and
stuff
you could
covered.
teach the whole music drum therapy. You got their musical background, and I could do all the arts. Or
I'm over 60 now.
I have a lot of people, though, that would love, they're specialized in these different areas. I have a lot of people that would love to, teach some kind of watercolor or whatever. I mean, I know people, I have those connections.
Right.
I'm not sure how this facility would be run or if the funding would be hard to get.
Yes. Somebody would have to pay a fee or you can't hire these people. You got to hire a lot of people to make that work.
I'm not sure if like insurance would be an issue. So would you take insurance, or is this like one of I don't know.
If you could take insurance out of the equation, then you're going to be free from all that madness because insurance, I'm sorry, they're always going to be thinking of their bottom line, and to get them out of the pockets of legislators, I'm sorry, they're connected. They're in deep. They're embedded. Yeah. That's never going to work. Government won't work. Insurance companies have shoved the customer under the bus, especially with Obamacare. The way to finance that, you know how much money is spent in Haiti right now through our churches?
So start at the church sector.
I think now I don't want to take away from Haiti, but our Christian churches have been doing that for decades. I mean, it's been forever. We've been helping people overseas for many decades, while at the same time here in our American Union, we're losing. Mm-hmm. We are starving. We are suffering now. We've got our own set of problems. Mm-hmm. We have an enemy that's embedded in our own country here, our own union that is collapsing everything around us. I think we need to bring some of that home and operate through the churches.
Okay.
It's amazing how much funding you can get if you can sell this idea to, the area, if not the whole state. I think with your idea, I think we need about 4 of these across the entire state. I believe that the churches in the state of Kansas, or even in this area,
probably the best way to
would
go.
Be a source where you could get funding for an operation like that. I would never go through the government again. You've been through that, and it's been how many years?
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, and nothing ever gets done. And I'd be scared if they did pass a bill. I'd be afraid of it because it never ends well. That's my personal opinion. And as long as the insurance have their claws, their attorneys and their lobbyists embedded in this government, I don't think it could ever end well. And it'll always be designed in such a way that the insurance companies will benefit. Would you be prepared to take this to task, to take it to the churches and talk? I don't know how far out you would have to go, but I would believe that congregations, the body of Christ, would want to save the lives of people.
Yeah, especially their youth. All of a sudden, this spur of suicides for 16, 17, 18, and this 19-year-old.
Well, they're being attacked, by the way. They're coming after our children, and they want this. So the church needs to rise up, I believe, and take part in this. They need to participate in this on a grand scale, and I think they can do greater good right here in our own home state and solve this issue once and for all.
Going into churches or talking with pastors and preachers, I hopefully I can talk clear enough and get my message across to where they understand how big of an issue it is now, especially with COVID passing this. Kristi's ordeal was before that. And sometimes I'm glad, it happened before, because I don't know how she would have handled being isolated when we were having to shut down the businesses and not be able to go out. And
it would have.
I don't know. I do wonder about that, how she would have handled that. But I do feel that people know that there's a need for some kind of change. I think less government is the answer, and I think a good starting point would be the churches. So if you or anybody that would be interested in starting up this whole grassroots, like from the bottom up, reach out to us, me or Mark. I'm on Facebook. I check it all the time. Like, my clients are on there, so I'm always answering messages.
Just type in Jenn Cook. Well, I think it's a great idea, and we've got to figure out a way to get it done. Before it's too late. Things are going to get worse, I believe.
I do. I feel like things are going to get worse.
Yeah, I'd like to just say something to everybody out there. If you know of anyone out there that is thinking along the same lines as what Jenn talked about, we've had casualties. People have given up hope. We've had a mental illness issue here in the state of Kansas for a long time. And no one seems to have the answer. And I think I know why. It's because we try to do it through legislation and through government. I think we're finding out that government is not the answer for many things. And I just want to say, if there's anybody out there that has land, if there's anybody out there who attends a church who would like to get the ball rolling in their home church, reach out and contact Jenn or myself, Mark Powls. You can find me on Verity Seeker or Mark Powls on Facebook, and I'll pass the message on to you. We need to get together. We need to talk about this. Heck, we can even start.
We'll make a positive of social media. Get their communications going. This is the one positive thing. So, put your people and my people together. But if anybody knows, where we can kind of start putting this road to the rubber. Yeah,
we're running out of time. So let's get this done.
Yep, I'm on board.
Yeah, 3 years working for Kristi. And
COVID did not help that.
COVID did not help, but we know
But I feel like everything is happening for a reasoning. Maybe this isn't the answer. So her bill wasn't the answer. Maybe this is the answer. I would love to start a facility like this. I have a lot of other people. I think the people that I've been talking to, they're just like, tell me what to do,
Really? Okay, well, that's all we need. So, let's kind of focus on that. If you're watching this video, and reach out to us, talk to each other, get on social media, and let's talk about it, okay? Well, Jenn, this is fun. Is there anything? Last words? Any last words? Anything?
The sun will rise tomorrow.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jenn. I appreciate it. Is it okay to shake your hand in the midst of COVID?
It's good for your immune system. Build up that immunity.
Yeah. This is a no mask zone, by the way. Well, this is Verity Seeker, and it was such a pleasure to talk with you about these, and we know some of the subject was difficult, but we're going to move forward and try to remedy this problem. We're going to fix this. This is Verity Seeker signing off.